Hey, this is Malika of Evanston Live TV, and I have with me actually a crew of people, a team. They've all been working together for quite some time. They have a new radio station, WCCR, that I think, is going to be quite amazing because it's going to bring back freedom. It's going to bring back real radio, the radio that we miss. We get so tired of hearing the same old, same songs in heavy rotation where it's like brainwashing you. But now they are bringing back radio the way that we used to really enjoy it. When the disc jockeys used to bring in the crates and play the records the way we liked it, we called in for a request. Love it, love it, love it. So I'm so excited. WCCR is going to be on Step North. Many Evanstonians know about Step North. Our John Nance, Evanston resident, no longer Evanston resident, but he will forever be an Evanstonian, owns WCCR, and he's got this amazing team, and I am really excited about it because media has changed. It has changed so much, and we are trying to keep up with how fast it is moving. Even doing the Zoom right now is new for all of us. So I want to introduce Adrienne Johnson. She's an Evanstonian. Allie Ellison, make sure I got that right, Allie Ellison, Greg Easterling, and Michael Hollingsworth. Please welcome to Evanston Live TV. Everybody's waving. We're all on mute. So I'm gonna start with Adrienne here. She's an Evanstonian. Well, she grew up in Evanston, but she lives in Deerfield. Adrienne, I know you handle more of the business side, and the way you broke down to me what WCCR is going to be about was it really intrigued me, and I think a lot of people will be excited about this new station. So if you want to give us a little bit more about it, Adrienne, let people know about WCCR.
I'd like to. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, we're very excited about WCCR, primarily for what you're most excited for, that it's going to give us the opportunity to be entertained the way we want to be entertained. When you tune to corporate radio, I'm going to say, you really don't have as much control of what you want to hear. The whole Step North mainstream media gives you that opportunity, and specifically having to do with classic rock, we are excited about the opportunity to be able to listen to music and also see music the way that you want to, on your phone, on your computer, on your television set. It's all really has to do with utilizing our app, which I imagine we'll talk about a little bit later. But it's an exciting way to take a look at what we're learning and apply it throughout our lives in places that we like to listen to music, which just excites me, because then I can listen, I don't know, when I have the want to hear it rather than listening to a specific time slot or whatever.
Yes. That sounds so good. And I want to know, like, what really sparked you all? What was like the final straw? You're like, you know what, this is it. We are tired of doing it this way. Because I'm going to bring on Allie Ellison right now. Allie, you and Greg were on 97.1, The Drive, for a very long time. And I also read that you did NPR, which I've just become a fan of NPR because of our current administration and just wanting to keep up with what the heck is going on. I keep the news playing at all times, as you can see behind me. But I wake up and turn on NPR, I roll over before I do anything. Allie, tell us what was like that final straw. You were like, no, we're getting back to the basics, to what's real, what people really want. Unmute yourself, Allie. There you go. Nope, you're still muted. There you go.
Hi, how about now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, as you can see, I'm a little technologically challenged because it is moving so breakneck fast these days, and that's another reason why we need a radio station that allows people to utilize the new technology that we have that allows us to listen whenever and wherever we want. There are no limitations. As long as you have a phone in your pocket, you have a radio, and that's something that's new to all of us, and it's really convenient, and it gives people new ways of listening and new places to listen where they've never been able to listen before. And as far as commercial radio goes, I mean, the final straw has been final for quite a long time for me because it's so restricting. I mean, it's very institutionalized. They take supposed research, a very small sampling of what they think people want to hear. And in a market the size of Chicago, the sampling they take, I don't think is indicative of all at all at what most people would like to hear. And all I've heard my whole time in this market and in another large market that I worked in before is that we're tired of hearing the same songs over and over again. You tune in every day, you hear the same songs. And this gives us the opportunity to play what the people want to hear. We can work from users or listeners' feedback to find out what they want to hear and then add it to our playlist where none of us ever had that freedom in commercial radio. So that's very exciting for me. I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, yes. I think we're all, I can't wait for the word to get out about WCCR. I think, especially people my generation, we can't even turn on the radio these days. It's just, we can't take it, just can't take it.
Yeah.
What's in mainstream right now. And Greg, okay, Greg changed his shirt. He had his workout gear on for wearing 97.1 The Drive, which I think is pretty exciting. But Greg is like, no, we're on to something new here. We're on to something new. Actually, pulling back the old and bringing it into the new, a whole new rebirth. So, Greg, tell us. I know you and Allie work together at the Drive. So, tell us, how's this really going to be different?
Oh, it's going to be different, all right, but it will be based on classic rock, the format that we were doing over at the Drive. Classic rock deep tracks is really going to be the basis for it, but we'll have the freedom to be able to include other elements that we want to add in that fit in naturally. The kind of combinations we used to do back in the 70s and 80s when we had the freedom to go in and do our own programs without being given a playlist of songs that we had to play for our 4 hour shift. We'll be able to go in and include, you know, like classic R&B type stuff. There's no reason why we're playing the Beatles and Stones, but we can also play some Stevie Wonder and Marvin Gaye and Curtis Mayfield. That some of that stuff is already in the system. We're looking forward to bringing that to the fore. And I will to backtrack a little bit. I'm doing this because I don't think my career is over with yet, and I want to keep going with it. I think I still have something to offer that's not being offered on a regular basis out there. One thing that helps us is that people no longer are dependent on the regular radio band for their programming, for their music programming. So much of the stuff that people listen to comes off their phones now. So when we can put an app on their phones and they can listen live from the website. They can listen to us off their phones just as well as they can listen to a regular broadcast station these days. So that gives us a leg up that maybe we wouldn't have had a few years ago. But I'm looking forward. This is going to be an adventure. Looking forward to getting back to doing radio the way I did it back in the 70s and 80s at different FM progressive stations around the Midwest, being able to go in and program my own show. As I mentioned earlier, though, we won't just be playing a bunch of stuff that people have never heard before. Some of the stuff might be like that, but a lot of it'll be a mix. It'll be a mix of familiar and unfamiliar to keep our audience entertained and to keep an audience, a larger audience growing as time goes by. I think people are really going to love it. I mean, I already love the music that's in the system at this point, and we're going to add much more to it as well. So it's an exciting opportunity to get back and do radio on a daily basis like I did for nearly 16 years at night over at the Drive. And I've been off since May 1st. Really looking forward to getting back on, starting the new year with a brand new radio station, a brand new approach here. So absolutely.
All right, that music sounds good. Yes, yes. Not to knock, hip hop things that are going on right now. I like a little bit of it, but it is just brainwashing. It's just brainwashing, and all the pop, and it's so many self-made music artists these days because of social media. They're popping out left and right. You can't keep track of who's who, and everybody sounds the same, so nobody's like special. Nobody's standing out like a Stevie Wonder, Michael Jackson. No one's really standing out like that anymore. So this is going to be refreshing, absolutely. And Michael Hollingsworth, you're a program director, so you have to break it down to us. What are going to be some of the things we can look forward to on WCCR in terms of the programming? You already got two great personalities. You've got an amazing businesswoman working the scenes. So what do you have planned for WCCR?
Well, after spending, an entire career in the IT industry, I had decided that I really didn't want to work in it anymore. I just couldn't take the same old thing decade in and decade out. So John and I were talking because we have known each other a very long time, and we were talking about music and some of the things he's doing, and the opportunity popped up for me to step in and fill a role as kind of I'll just say I've got very broad music tastes. And one of the main things that I love, and I mean, I sit and I think songs in my head while I'm at work, and these are all the things that I do to keep sane. And then what I keep sane with is music. That's what keeps me sane. So I had this opportunity to put together, and John handed me the station and said, "Do what you want." So I said, "Well, great," and I started learned the technology about how to do it, and started putting in albums. And I kept putting them in and kept putting them in and kept putting them in. And finally, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got about 2,000 songs loaded in our database now. And I mean, I've got the entire Beatles collection. I've got all of Jimi Hendrix. I've got the Rolling Stones when they were good. I've got, again, Stevie Wonder's in there. We've got Marvin Gaye, James Brown, the Four Tops, who are my favorites. We've got guys from the 50s, and you can't go wrong with Jerry Lee Lewis on anything. There's nothing he does that's dull. And we're moving into the 80s and 90s. As a matter of fact, I've even got an album that came out in the year 2005 from an old gospel singer, Solomon Burke. And it turned out I was listening to that on a plane going to the West Coast, and I hadn't heard it before. And all of a sudden it occurred to me that the best rock and roll album of the year 2005 was done by a 70-year-old gospel singer. So he's on there prominently, and it's amazing the things that we can do. And as the other members of the crew have so eloquently said, the goal is to kind of give you a CCR moment where you go, a song that you haven't heard since you were a teenager. And getting not just, Led Zeppelin and, Clapton and all these things over and over again, and I had actually stopped listening to radio altogether, except if I got stuck on the road somewhere, couldn't pick up any music any other way. But even doing that, I noticed going through state by state by state, you get out of one range and into the other, but it's the same songs. It didn't matter whether you were in New Jersey or Indiana, we were hearing the same songs, you know. So I wanted to get music back, as Greg said, back to a way that it used to be. And I was kind of envisioning the old FM DJs from the early 70s when you went on late at night and they would just put all kinds of stuff on you never heard anywhere else. And I kind of wanted to recreate that moment so that people can listen to stuff they know, hear a lot of stuff they may never have heard before, and also hear that stuff they forgot about. And we only have one rule here, Malika, and that is anything goes, but the music has to be good. That's the main thing that we have. And I think we all believe in that. So luckily, we're all I think on the same page on this, and we all believe in individual creativity, and we want to make sure that everybody can express themselves, and at the same time, hopefully, bring out the expressions in a lot of people sitting, listening on the phone or the app or whatever the case may be. And maybe even bring some younger people into it. Because as you said before, the stuff there, I will be a little bit harsher about what it is, but let's just say I don't think much of it at all. Maybe we can bring them back into good music.
Good music.
So that would be a great legacy to bring them back into good music, so that's pretty much it.
Yes, good music. Yes, yes. Let's get back to it. Please, let's get back to it. So I'm gonna have everybody unmute yourselves, and everybody can jump in with these questions. But I want to direct this question to Adrian. Because of the way things are going right now, I'm curious as to how do you sell a WCCR right now? How does that work in this day and time? Because things are just changing so fast, and so is the business end of it as well a total new vehicle that you have to learn? Like what's the program now?
Truthfully, the entire media, I had experience on social media, but not a lot of experience in the whole media area. With that said, what I see as opportunity is so exciting that I'm willing to learn it. And as I learn and as I I look at the development from me as a perspective. If I wanted to listen to this music, how is it easiest for me to listen to the music? How who normally would listen to this? Everyone here has heard me say demographics, and what we found is that there really isn't a specific demographic for classic rock. It's across the board. Although if you look around at the faces here, we skew older, but there is absolutely a generation that's been raised on classic music as well. And as we come into that, Mike was talking about the newer classic rock. And as we come into the 2021 year, we're also seeing rock and roll go through a change. And that we are much better set up to respond to that change than perhaps a corporate entity. I'm going to just leave it that way. So from a business development standpoint, I personally look at it in two different places. One is specifically who listens to classic rock, and that it seems to be really broad, and therefore business should be easy to develop as we roll out, which by the way is set for January 18th, which we're very excited about. And we're hoping that people are interested in putting this on their phone, in getting the information out so that by word of mouth, perhaps, we'll build and of course, to Allie and Greg's listeners, they still have many of their listeners, and I would again refer you back to perhaps their Facebook pages and the comments that are coming in, because when I talk about business development, I'm talking about really the development of our audience, and as we develop our audience, the business will come, I believe, and I think we all believe. Um, it's an interesting, we as a group come from all different backgrounds, but I think, bottom line, it's the music that brings us together.
Mm, mm. And so,
I've seen some research. Sorry, I was going to jump in real quick.
uh,
I've seen some research in recent years that indicates that you'd think the classic rock audience is just confined to baby boomers. Not so. That Gen Xers and millennials are also listening to this music. Sometimes hearing it for the first time, or maybe they heard it, growing up in their homes and that sort of thing. So it's not just a baby boomer kind of thing. There was a golden age in music back in the 60s and 70s of classic rock that we call classic rock. And there's still an audience for it amongst us, but also among younger people as well.
Yeah, I know my kids were raised on classic rock and classic soul and R&B, and I'm sure Greg had the same experience with his. So they grew up in the household filled with this music, and they learned to love it. And as we found out later, so did their friends. Their friends' parents did the same thing. So we have a whole new audience of millennials and Gen Xers who love classic rock and classic music in general. So I think the demographic is so widespread, you can't really pigeonhole it into any specific age group anymore. It has like mass appeal these days.
And if
mhm.
I may
And
add,
there's also, and I'm not going to try to move your attention or anything here, but one of the things that I think is exciting about Step North and being a part of this, building this, is that there are also several other stations that are available when you download that app. So, for example, you are listening to classic rock and have this hankering for house music. We have a house music station, which I can talk to you at a different time about. But what's exciting is that while you like one kind, you can look at others and explore. And you have that opportunity through the application.
Mm, that's interesting. Mike, you were going to say something?
well, I was just going to add that earlier in the year, when everybody was super locked down, I read an article in Forbes magazine that said for the first 6 months of the year 2020, the number one selling group in the world was the Beatles. And I was kind of shocked by that because that's not all a bunch of old folks rebuying all their stuff. It's a lot of young people, newer people, people who maybe come from other backgrounds who are listening. And I think at that time, Abbey Road was the number one album. So
Mm,
they're still around, guys.
mm. I think that's true about the My nephew is a fan of Led Zeppelin right now, which I went to visit him and I was like, "What are you listening to? Led Zeppelin? What?" He was like, "Yeah, they're like the best," and yeah. So he's up on all the old heavy metal, classic rock. Like, yeah, you'd be surprised. I think many of them are thirsty for some real music too. You're hearing the same drum beats over and over. Um, yeah, yeah. So when they hear something from back in the day that's like real creativity and original, they're like, "Who is that?" And they're
Yeah,
fascinated.
all the pre-programmed drum beats and all the production that they put into music these days, it's quite different from the old days. And people, or the young people these days, are having a thirst for that, and they're like, wow, that's what real drums sound like. Wow, that's what real guitars sound like, and they like it, you
Yeah,
know.
you listen to a lot of the contemporary pop music, and it just is kind of seamless. You can't distinguish instruments anymore, like a Hammond B3 organ or a certain type of guitar or anything like that. It's just kind of a generic kind of background. And classic rock offers, diversity and all kinds of instrumentation and vocal harmonies and things like that is not heard normally today in today's pop music in a lot of cases.
Yeah, or songs with no bridges. You know,
Right.
they
Where's
go
the bridge?
on and on and on, and you
I
know,
think auto tune is just a scourge on the music industry. I'm sorry, but I've had it with auto tune.
back when we could still work out, I would actually it helped me get my workout done faster because I couldn't stand listening to the stuff they were playing. So I would work out faster so I could get out of
Well, I can't tell you how excited I am about this because yes, it's time. It is definitely time. And so will it just be music or will you have some other programs on WCCR, especially with our administration we have going on? Anything else going on in terms of oh,
Yeah.
John? Hi, John
Yeah.
Nance.
Hey, hey. Everybody who knows me knows that I could talk for days, so I wanted to give everybody a chance to kind of meet the group. And basically, we're going to stay focused on the music because the beauty of Step North is we have enough bandwidth where we don't have to try to be everything all at once. Just like we have our other stations, we have separate genres where no matter what time of day you want to go and hear what you want to hear, it's there for you. So in other words, we don't have to try to do news and talk and everything else. If we want to do news and talk, we got a news station that's coming. Okay, if you want to hear classic rock, you can go to WCCR. If you want to hear rock, reggae, and blues, you can go to US 41. You want to hear R&B, grown and sexy, we have several stations that actually cover that, and that's WSNR.us, as well as we also have client stations on our network that also covers different aspects because with each genre, you have different aspects. So in other words, WSNR is for the grown and sexy. Casper Slide has WCCR, not WCCR, Casper's Classic Radio, where he does line dance, steppers, line dance music, R&B. That's slightly different. Then we have WSWT, which does the neo soul newer type R&B. And then we have our inspiration channel, WNSPR. We also have Jam Good Radio, that's all original soundtrack music, and even an obscure station that's WESR, which is Evanstock Radio, which does traditional jazz classics. Okay, and then of course we just converted our spray paint brand into from hip hop into house music, and that's going to feature the Chicago house music DJs, which you will be talking to very shortly in mass. And you get those guys together, they start talking about wrestling. That's a show in itself. But I told them, forget it. We could do a whole station about you guys talking about wrestling because they're into that culture. But yeah, I just wanted to pop by and say hello. The story of how it all happened in a nutshell, I got in touch with Mike. He put in the database. Adrian and I have been talking for a long time. She brought in Greg. I've been begging Allie for 2.5 years to come on. She finally said, okay, and here we are. We've just got new office facilities, studio that we're moving into, and we're going to move forward and make it happen. I'm not going to stay around long. I just popped in to say, hey, throwing my little 2 cents, which is about $20, and pop out. Any questions you want to ask me?
Well, one, thank you for what you're doing. Thank you. And then bringing all these people together. I think it's going to be pretty powerful.
This is a great group. This is a great team here. And everybody has different roles, not just with this station, but also within the structure, because it's not just about one station. Adrian is probably the one, besides myself, who touches all the other aspects. Michael's technical ability, or what we're doing with him is actually bringing in his passion for music to give him the release, but also we're working on some back end database technology things that are just way out there that we won't even go into. But then, you know, with this station, we're going to have the ability to get out there, get around people, do a lot of remotes, a lot of mobiles, you know, spread a lot of joy, a lot of music, get around people and kind of, you know, do things better than what we used to because the technology is better. You know, you don't need a truck to pull up outside anymore with high-powered microwaves and stuff. You know, we've got our network all set up, and you know, proud to say that you know we've built a very, very great entertainment streaming network, and we plan on not only just streaming audio, but also we've done several very successful streaming events just in the past couple weeks that have been just mind blowing. Okay, so you can expect more from us. This is an opportunity for everybody to completely use their creative juices to bring to the table and to try the things that we said, because for years and years, you know, especially with Greg and Allie having been in the industry and being suppressed, they probably came with a lot of suggestions that were not, that were ignored by corporate. We're here, we can experiment, we can flip it, we can flop it, and it's all for the betterment of advancing entertainment and technology, because our whole thing at Step North is about entertaining and engaging, because we feel if we can entertain and engage, we can maintain. And with that, I'm back in the woods.
Thank, thank you, John. I don't want to keep you guys much longer, but John brought up a interesting point that I had wanted to talk to you all about, is the control of corporate in terms of creativity, because doing what you all do is pure expression and creativity. So how was dealing with that being suppressed like that? Like how did you cope? How did you deal?
Well, you played what they told you to play on the radio. Can you hear me now? Okay, you played what they told you to play on the radio and played what you really wanted to hear when you got home, because it is very regimented. You know, you have logs and playlists that you cannot stray from. You know, they have the illusion that the listener may have some input. Oh, they'll say they're playing this song for so and so, but actually, what the DJ has done is talk that listener or that caller who called request into saying, okay, I want to hear this song, to make it give the illusion that the listener has some input. And it is just an illusion nowadays, and it has been for the last few decades. I mean, DJs haven't had real freedom to play what they wanted to play since the late 70s and early 80s. So this is very exciting that we will have a certain amount of freedom that we've never experienced in corporate radio before. At least I've never experienced in corporate radio before.
I was fortunate enough to really work at a number of FM stations where I could select the music, even during the 80s and parts of the 90s. But since the early 2000s, I've pretty much been handed a list, you know, of songs that I had to play in order, and it makes it difficult. The current culture makes it difficult to play requests. You have to be responsible with requests. You know, not every request probably should be played on the radio that people call in for, but a lot of them are good, and there's no reason why they can't be fit in with the tapestry of music that you're already, you know, playing on the air, you know, as long as it fits in with your format. And so I'm looking forward to the opportunity to be able to go in and do a live organic show based on my, you know, long years in the business and my musical knowledge. I think it's, you know, same thing for Allie. We're going to have a heck of a good time mixing these elements together and really entertaining people who are just dying for something a little bit different out there, or a lot different.
Mhm. And how does Oh, go ahead, Adrian.
I was just going to jump in and bring it back to the business development question that you asked previously, because I think as you've listened, what you're hearing is that we value creativity. And one of the things that excites me about doing this is the creativity. I come from a business background. I've been in finance for years. And being able to look at music from a whole different perspective, like John said, to entertain and engage. The engaging also means that people that are maybe interested in sponsoring a segment or a part of what we do or how we do it, we will be able to, from a business development standpoint, look at everything that someone wants to do. They might be interested in the music, specific kind of music. We can business develop there. We can as we were talking about, we can specify the music for a specific period of time. We also work with the client, whoever the client is that's wanting to help us develop our business, to see how we have symbiotic relationships. And I think that's where we've all come together, because we've all got something in common. In this situation, it is very specifically our love of classic rock. But from what John was explaining to you, it's fun because when you go to, let's say, a craft brewer, and that's someone who's going to be maybe a risk taker. This is the beginning, and we're excited about the beginning of this opportunity, but it's really not that big a risk and might be just the person that might want. I'm using that as an example of, we're excited because what we're doing, we believe our friends and family and followers are excited about also. And again, I say, the comments we've been reading are follow that up. It wasn't just instinct. We see it coming. Also, you asked about what coming down the line, and as people get vaccinated and start coming back out into the world, we think we will be ultimately best positioned to begin our events and begin. We will have already started hitting the road and talking to, as things open up, we have plans to get larger or whatever. But for now, we're working on what we need to do to get the rollout going. So.
Yes, yes, I can't wait to get back out and actually touch and interview people. Zoom is great, but I normally, we would all be in the same room together and really feel each other's energy and so. But Zoom is great. Zoom is great.
Hey, we haven't all been in the same room together yet,
Oh,
believe it or
really?
not.
Okay.
No? Have we? No?
No?
A few of us, but
And I,
That's just what it is these days. I mean, and this, I think all of this will just accelerate a trend that was already happening in society, and that we're all in. I mean, there's whole bands that play where they don't see each other. And
mhm.
they'll put a whole orchestra together, and
wow.
and it's just amazing the things that are going on that we can.
How are you all this? I'm gonna get one more question in. Actually, two more. How are you all going to handle now? I'm sure this still goes on, where artists want to pay you. I think that's where all the brainwashing of the music came in, because a music label or an artist manager will come and offer some money, to the
Yeah,
programmer.
plug Ola payola.
How's that going to work now with this whole new way of doing radio? How does that work now?
They used to call that payola.
Payola, yes.
Yeah, yeah, and I got a lot of people. But money's always good.
That's where you're calling me again on a question that I need to answer. We are a private network. We are allowed to conduct business by any means possible. We do not use the FCC for any types of broadcast. This is all on a private network, proprietary. So, but not to say that we accept pay for play, because we're, I think, a little bit more pure than that. But if you're on the internet, you have the flexibility of running business or conducting business so far until the government comes in and regulates, or until they start, helping me to pay these bills. You have to stay in business. So in terms of accepting payment for play, I'm not really down with that, but you can buy ads. We'll sell you ads, won't we, Adrian? If you got a project coming out, but my policy.
We got lots of things to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, we're like Lenny. If we ain't got it, it ain't any. Okay. But in terms of my policy from the beginning, if we like it, we will play it. If we love it, we'll play it. Whether you pay us or not has nothing to do with it. And some things you can't pay us to play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because it just doesn't work that way. We will not compromise our audience for payment. So this is not this is not pay for play, or what did they call it? What's the saying?
A payola, plug-ola.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing in this industry, because see, the whole problem with payola is that you're using the federal airwaves. It goes through the air, which just like the planes that fly and everything else is regulated. But this is like a proprietary network, and proprietary networks, you have the ability to charge subscriptions and to pretty much run your own business model, because it's so new that the government has not quite adapted yet. It might change in the future, but right now, people brought me things that I've hated and never, offered to pay. I've never accepted it. People brought me things that I loved but didn't have any money, put it on right away, because it's actually ultimately for your listeners that you are there for, and therefore you serve your listeners. And if you start thinking about it any other way, you're going to lose your people. And when you lose your people, you kind of lose part of your purpose of being on the air in the first place.
Yeah, and then you just become what's already out there.
One of them other ones.
Yeah.
Another one of them. Yeah.
As I said earlier, the only thing that's required is the music.
Yes.
I was going to say, back in the 1950s, payola, plugola really almost destroyed rock and radio a little bit for a while through this whole tainted things for a while. And one of the guys who coined rock and roll, Alan Freed, actually, he had to, resign, from his radio position. And so it was something that most people don't respond real positively to, thinking that you're playing stuff on the air that you were paid to play and not the best stuff, kind of a thing. But that happened back then. And I think in more recent decades, then there was maybe a way of getting around that by independent people putting money into promotional accounts instead of paying them directly to play a song on the air. Somehow they found a way to give stations money to influence their choices sometimes. But we won't have any of that going on, here. And I don't think our listeners would want to be privy to that either. So.
Well, Dick Clark started American Bandstand because they wouldn't let him on the radio anymore. So
That's interesting.
Well, Dick kind of survived. I mean,
he did quite well.
Yeah, he did. But he's, he could have. He was part of that back then. But he survived that whole era, the pay for play era. So which he might have been part of before that. So.
Yes. So I'm going to
before that.
Say that again, Mike.
They almost all were before that period. They were involved in something.
Yes.
That's how people got discovered, as they got DJs to play their stuff, and how the DJs played their stuff was through a few bucks in the fall.
And the artists were harmed by this too, because a lot of record company people got their names on songs so they would get songwriting royalties, but they had nothing to do with writing the songs.
Yes.
But you'll see some of the classic like blues songs, Chuck Berry, some of those songs have another name on them. And usually it was some white guy record executive, you know, who got his name on there, so he got half the royalties, and that certainly was not right. So.
Yes, well, that's a whole nother show. I have to bring you all
Yes.
back just for that topic alone.
Yeah.
Just for that topic. I was just listening to the Stylistics the other day, and I was like, what happened to all these groups? I hope they didn't die like broke, because they were so talented, weren't they? I mean,
Yes.
it was
A
real
lot
music.
of them did. A lot of them did die broke, and that's why there's been so many lawsuits over the years for them
Yeah.
trying to get money back that they were due back then, you know, and it makes you really sad to know that these talented writers and musicians and singers didn't get paid what they should have been getting paid for their talent.
Right. I mean, a lot of back through creative accounting, so to speak, a lot of these artists never made back the costs of recording some of their singles and some of their albums. So they never made anything off of it. Maybe a manager would give them some money sometime, or buy them a car or something like that, you know, to pacify them. But a lot of them never got royalties off their classic recordings.
Yeah, it was said that Jimi Hendrix's manager made regular trips to the Caribbean with suitcases full of cash, and as opposed to giving it to Jimmy, who it belonged to. You know, so it took. Luckily, the Hendrix family maintained for decades, and they finally got it all back, or most of it. But that's as late as the late '70s, and that stuff was going on. So.
Fascinating.
And they preyed on the fact that a lot of the musicians were young, and really they were in.
They had no choice.
They got into it to meet, to party, and meet members of the opposite sex and things like that. So that, you know, and they were popular on that level. They just weren't making the money they should have made. Other people, their money was going in other pockets.
Yeah, John Lennon said he got into music so he could meet girls. So and he did quite well.
It's a powerful
You're
incentive.
also seeing the level of classic history that we have here, that we're and historians that we're hoping that people are interested in hearing about. I think you will see that people will be interested in it.
Yes, yes. Well, please let everybody know where they can find you, where they can tune in. And I have to have you back just to talk about the history alone, because that fascinates me, absolutely fascinates me. So where can they find WCCR and hear all these amazing personalities and this music? I can't wait to just sit back, play, and listen to the music, some good music.
Well, the Step North Go app has been running for quite a few years, and I'm sorry. Are we talking?
Please, Ellie, go ahead.
Okay, the Step North app has been available for quite a few years, and there you have access to like 6 or 8 stations, however many are in the Step North network. So you can buy that at your app store. It's called Step North Go, or you can listen online anywhere you have computer access at wccr.us.
Yes,
So,
what I was saying. Yeah, you don't need the app.
yeah.
The app is easier. The app is certainly easier. But you know, if you're,
But you can listen to it any way you'd like to.
Yeah.
there's a
You
number
can
of
get the app at the Apple Store, I believe, can't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but
And Google Play.
Yeah.
Yeah, we worked very hard to make it easy to get.
Thank you.
That was especially an issue that John and I were thinking about early on, to make sure that it was quite simple to get to, and people didn't have to work for it, because people ain't going to work for things. You know, they want it to come to them. So.
Right. Right. People want simple, quick, and easy access. If they got to go through too many steps, then you've lost them. So that's good to know. Thank you all so much for joining us today on Evanston Live TV, and I'm excited about WCCR. And what's the date? The launch date? The big launch date?
January 18th.
MLK Day.
MLK Day.
Yes, yes, freedom. He was all about equality.
There you go.
Freedom. So this is perfect.
Yes, we thought so too. Thank you for this.
Thank you so much, Adrian, Allie, Greg, Mike. Thank you so much. And thank you, John Nance. And we're looking forward to this.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, this has been Malika, Evanston Live TV, and that is WCCR. We cannot wait. You all stay tuned, January 18th. Be sure you download that app. Be sure you go online, WCCR.us, and let's get back to some real radio, some real music, and let's just get back to what is real, people. We need it. We need it. Yes, we do. So thank
Thank you.
you so much, and stay tuned for more here on Evanston Live TV.